Ladies and gentlemen, we'll follow up with a new presentation by Max. Max, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So good morning, everyone. I know it's early morning for you guys on day 2 of Ethereum CC, so appreciate you guys being here. Really excited to share some of these ideas and sort of structures with you. So my name is Max. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Carbonbase, and today we're talking about how do we build next generation carbon registries. So at a high level, for me personally, the key desire for us is actually to create a stable economy over the next few years that can successfully employ millions of people and drive billions of dollars into the carbon removal space. This is kind of the key KPI that we wake up every morning and measure ourselves against. In order to do this, we need to think about kind of the macro trends powering our society today that was not here a few years ago. And I think we're actually at this amazing tipping point between institutional awareness and action, large financial and corporate participation, and finally, sovereign wealth fund and central bank activity. So for you guys in the space who have heard about carbon credits but haven't really seen this ecosystem in detail, this is a one-slide visualization of how this whole thing works. There are 4 key types of players in the carbon markets. There are people who are the registries, who actually do all of the hard work auditing and verifying the claims made by project developers. We have what I call carbon miners, people who spend a lot of time, effort, and money putting carbon in the ground and actually trying to get recognition for it. We have brokers, people who actually help finance some of these projects today and actually also do a lot of facilitation and sales. And finally, we have the buyers. The buyers are logos that we recognize, people like Salesforce, Shell, PwC, Microsoft, actually spending money on buying carbon. But I want to focus here keenly on this idea of a registry. These registries are super powerful entities. They are kind of the central banks of the carbon economy space. The reason for that is that they have the decision and the ability to choose what types of activities result in credit creation. Right? To use a blockchain metaphor, they are the definition of the economic protocol. They have the ability to decide if your action is worth being economically incentivized or not. And the mechanical things they do are that actually they evaluate the projects, they physically mint the credits on their holding of the account, they facilitate the account management, they allow you to transfer credits between entities, and also they provide an audit trail of destruction, showing people that there actually has been credit retirement at some point. These 4 entities constitute 97% of the entire carbon creation space today. So let's look at this on a map, right? Where are these activities happening and where are the registries located? And if you look at this map in very quick understanding, you see that there's concentration of the registries here in the United States and one in Switzerland. This is kind of where the world is today. These huge circles I've drawn in South America, in Africa, and in Asia do not have local registries. This to me is a major area of interest, right? Because if you look at the coloring of the map, this is where project development is happening on the ground. You see a huge, dense, dark colors in the developing and EM markets of the world. So if we look closer at this is actually something I find absolutely fascinating. The majority of the projects registered on Vera and Gold, which together constitute about 90-something% of the carbon markets, are concentrated in Asia. Right? Look at this, 69% of projects on Vera come from Asia, 75% of the projects come from Gold. However, all of the project developers have to come to the West and then basically get in line to get authentication. So what are we doing? We're hoping to fill this relatively large gap and actually provide closer to home experiences for the project developers out east and also accelerate and speed up the process dramatically. So first of all, I just want to mention, as a Chinese-looking person, I spent some time in Asia recently, and I think that there is this incredible need to decarbonize. If you look at the left-hand graph, you see that China alone constitutes 27% of global emissions, compared to about 11% for the United States. India alone constitutes 6.6% emissions, bigger than continental Europe, right? And then Indonesia is bigger than Russia, and then Japan and Brazil are kind of comparable. So if we were to add these 4 countries together, China, India, Indonesia, and Japan, we would have about 40+% of global emissions in 4 countries. The second is, and I want to sort of state this in explicit terms, the desire for China to decarbonize as a country is a game-changing event. I wrote a master's thesis in 2016 about the political economy of US and China as they try to decarbonize. And my thesis takeaway, right, my TLDR, was that if and when China actually decides to really aggressively go after decarbonization, this is going to move the rest of the market. And the reason for that is because China's policy structure is set up in a way where the business interest cannot hold back the will of the policy. Right? In the US, you have a very strong lobbying committee. You actually have the ability to sort of change the agenda for the legislator based on your economic requirements. In China, the government is not opposed to steamrolling through economic interest on the way to policy destination. And climate change is going to be a tension between the corporate interest and the government interest. So I think this is kind of how I phrase this particular phenomenon. Second, as most of you guys have seen in this space, we expect huge market growth. Right now, the carbon market industry is roughly $1, $2, $3 billion. We need to get to like hundreds of billions of dollars in the next 6-7 years. So I expect there to be far more institutional guardrails and also requirements to help companies actually facilitate and get on this journey. So just kind of break down a few technical slides. A lot of people we present to actually come from the climate change and environmental finance world. The first question they ask us is a blockchain necessary? Right? I've heard a lot of fancy, sort of ridiculous uses of blockchain. Is this actually something that we need for ourselves? And my answer is, actually, climate change is the killer application for blockchain. It is the ability to participate in a globally recognized market that involves some of the biggest players in the world, that also is not a security, because carbon credits are digital commodities, and finally has ability to actually help hundreds of millions of people's lives. Like, through an economic design system. That's really what the thing of blockchain is good at. Right? Blockchain compared to AI, I used to be a data scientist. AI is an efficiency tool. AI is one person plus an AI suite equals output of 100 people. Here is one blockchain system helps coordinate the activities of 100 people to be far more in sync and related to one another. So thinking about this from a sort of structural feature perspective, and this is something I'd love to do a Q&A with you guys on, what are the things we can uniquely do if we have a digital native registry compared to a traditional registry? And I mean, we've had conversations with Go Standard and Vera, and they're fantastic people. They are pioneers actually in creating the opportunity for us to even define value in the carbon space. But here's 4 things I think you can't do today. The first is you can have a digital native account system. Today it costs and takes time and effort to maintain the registry accounts for individual corporates. But if you think about how easy it is for you to set up a MetaMask account, we can actually generate individual wallet addresses for every individual person on the planet and every corporation on the planet, basically for free. And that's something that I think can easily add address systems for hundreds of millions of people. The second is creating a publicly available evidence ledger. And here there's a reference to the Guardian article that came out a few months ago, sort of cast a dark light on the sort of problem of overissuance. My view is that sunlight is the best disinfectant. And what that means is that if you are able to put whatever you're doing publicly for everyone to see and give out even a bounty system for people to find errors with your system, then you will have a lot of people actively participating to make sure that whatever you put in public is going to be real, transparent, and credible. Third is, obviously, there's going to be a lot of ways to do digital MRV. So you have far more data-rich inputs actually verifying and securing your issuance of claims. I think this is all something we can very easily understand. And the fourth one, the one I'm most excited about, is the concept of developing our carbon app store. So today, there are no really readily usable APIs on top of these registries. And as a result, the only people who can really participate in the registry activity are people who actually wake up in the morning, go to the registry website, and try to figure out how to buy some credits. Right? That's a very small percentage of people. If we have the Uber, Lime, Uber Eats, like Deliveroo, all these kind of like consumer-facing applications with hundreds of millions of users already, embed 1 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent ability for you to neutralize your meal, your transportation, your housing and logistics, you can actually have way larger user engagement. And we're not going to get there by actually forcing everyone to go and calculate their carbon footprint and then do something individual action and buy it. We have to embed ourselves into the lifestyle stream of the human being. And this is what the App Store model really allows us to do. So a few more things. We're spending a lot of time on building an active recording process for building trust. we think that this is going to allow us, the digital transformation tool is going to allow us to boost the consumer carbon economy market, which today is still very small and limited. And we also hope to create and stimulate this larger economic cycle. Here, just show of hands. How many of you guys in the audience today are carbon neutral personally? Is anyone? Got 1, 2, 3? Yeah, okay, that's 3 people, right? And this is like the REFI early morning crowd, right? This is like kind of the church, if you will. How many of you guys have a company that is carbon neutral? About 3 people as well. So this is where we are today. If you take a survey of the world, you probably have this equal distribution. Maybe 3 to 5% of the population are actually either individually or corporately carbon neutral. And so our goal is we got to get that number to like 50%. And the way we do that is actually through economic incentives, giving people actually rewards, either socially or economically, for the very act of purchasing credits themselves. A third part, and this is something that we're newly developing in great interest, actually is to actually create a pipeline between the banking world and the green financial product world. And what I mean that in particular actually is the idea of tokenizing the green bonds. So for you guys who are not coming from sort of large-scale traditional finance, green bonds have evolved as a tool actually to put value into company actions that go to decarbonization. And there's kind of like a whole, sort of DLT system that works behind this. But I want to show you a few pictures of scale. Like today, we are issuing relatively about $300 to $400 billion of green bonds every day. The entire voluntary carbon market today is, let's say, $5 billion. If we can actually find a way to bridge these two worlds together, we can drive far more capital into the space. So this is my very simple, elementary school rendition. We have $2.5 to $3 trillion green bond space, and we have a voluntary carbon space. I generously put it at about 20 bill. And today, if you look at the issuance of the green bonds, there are very little overlaps between these two economies. Our view is that we can actually merge these circles together and hopefully drive a lot more digital green bonds that actually support and finance the carbon projects behind the scenes. And embedded in this is not only carbon credits, but we think of it as a mitigation outcome instrument. So a much larger umbrella term. It also includes things like renewable energy, like certificate performance, energy performance enhancements, and a bunch of ratings you can actually put onto the bond issuance itself. So finally, I'm really interested in making a public plea to all of you guys here to work with us actually to build climate awareness in Asia. As you saw before from my big slides, I think there's a very large need to do this, and Europe has some of the best ethical and social constructs to mobilize people actually to participate in this. So this is an area where I think there's a lot of potential market over here and knowledge, where we're sitting in Paris. And these two things added together can be very useful. So thank you very much for the presentation. I have about 3 minutes left for Q&A. I just want to say that you guys are fantastic for being here. And thank you so much for caring about the climate. Cheers. No, okay, perfect. Thank you. I'll definitely talk to you.
Hi, Max. Great presentation. What's your opinion on the UN framework?
The ITMOs or the... Yeah, I think ITMOs are going to be a huge game changer because they actually allow us to have country-level carbon issuance that's then registered at the UNFCCC. And we are very keen to see more country-level credit issuance as well. I think that it's going to be 30, 50% of the total, sort of voluntary carbon market in the future. You can shout it, I think, Go ahead.
I was saying, I'm sorry I was late, but I got a glimpse of what you're doing, and I think it's quite complementary. It is often said Web 2, it's about competitors, while Web 3 is about collaboration. And I think there's a lot of space for collaboration here. We work with unbanked farmers that are 70% of the unbanked population. It's millions, 1.2 billion actually. And they're excluded from the carbon markets because of the scale. So it would be very synergic to find a way to tap that. Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, the markets, and voluntary markets growing. I think it's a huge opportunity, so congratulations on your job.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about agricultural farming use cases.
Okay, one last question.
There's a guy here.
Hey, great presentation, great initiative. So quick questions on the roadmap that you have in front of you. So you're more focused on the digital asset side of things, where you're looking at, green bonds and tokenization, bringing that into voluntary carbon markets. If yes, then which jurisdiction are you looking at? That's my first question. And the second question is short-term focus, right? So what is your near-term focus? Where are you from POC perspective, and what exactly have you achieved so far? So that's basically.
Yeah, so we've been around for 3.5 years. We've been working on this all of that time. A lot of the time has been actually putting together the political economy ecosystem, right? The sort of high-level real economy support actually to create a new registry. That's a very large and complex endeavor. The digital green bond stuff is something that we started in the last 9 months, and we hopefully have our first customer, a listed company in Hong Kong, issuing a multi-million-dollar bond through our facilitation, and hopefully it's going to be through a European jurisdiction, actually, for the bond creation. And then for me, the biggest milestone for us this year is actually getting an MVP launched for the registry. I think that we can accomplish this before the end of year, which would be huge for our ability to start getting a lot of real-world farmers and tree protection people and large-scale carbon removal people actually to participate.
That's brilliant. Thank you. So from collaboration perspective, from interoperability perspective, so how does your platform allow other asset issuance companies to collaborate with you and list, perhaps from exchange perspective?
Yeah, so, and very simply, we are very open for any project developer to come find us. I mean, we're essentially building the registry to serve project developers. We love to have, sophisticated intermediaries and people who actually do the trading and brokering piece to actually help us stimulate demand. And we need to also partner with people who have, digital MRV solutions, people who can do like sort of remote sensing and IoT measurements actually to drive data feeds. Yeah, so.
Okay, thank you, Max. Thank you, everybody. And next speech in just 2 minutes.